Welcome back to Wrestling Travel Presents the Lockdown Sessions. Today, I am here with Paul Benson from Hooked on Wrestling over in the UK. Paul, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Justin. Thanks for having me. How's things?
Super good. I mean, considering the world's falling apart right in front of us, I mean, couldn't be doing any better. Considering
it's all relative, isn't it?
It is. It is. And you are. We're calling you from the UK. You're calling me from the UK, but I cannot help but notice that you've got the John Elway Denver Broncos jersey on. Is that your team?
Good
Denver?
spot. Good spot. Yeah, that's my team. I went over to Denver in 2004 and got taken to a Broncos game, and they've been my team ever since. So this morning, it's been a hot day, a muggy day here, so I wanted something I can relax in, and this is my go-to shirt. Good spot with the Elway. I'm impressed.
Well, I'm calling you from Wisconsin, so I'm a Green Bay Packers guy. So I do remember
Nice.
Elway in Super Bowl 32, I believe.
Yeah, you will do very well.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? As much as I'm a diehard Packer fan, it's good to see a guy like Elway, who's definitely a legend, go down and get his first Super Bowl and then go back and get another one against Atlanta. Look at
I've got the helmet right here as well. That's my prized possession right here on my desk. So, yeah, it's been a rough few years. Let's put it that way.
Right. And I'm trying to think, who is their quarterback right now?
Their quarterback is oh god, I've completely lost the
play. No, sorry, I didn't mean to throw him under the bus.
No, I meant to say Andrew Luck, but it's clearly not Andrew Luck. Oh bloody hell, my brain has gone completely blank. That makes me look awful, doesn't it? It's the young guy. Fuck me.
Nah, here we go. We'll just the last one I thought of it, I can't even remember his name. Case Keenum was there, right?
Case Keenum was there. We've had a few. We've had a few over the last few years, and they've all been a bust. Obviously, Manning retired in 2015. Drew Lock, I can't believe that's why.
Yeah. I mean, I was.
Yeah, that's shameful.
That's shameful on both of our sides. So why don't we'll switch gears from the NFL and
let's do it.
You gotta wrestling travel. We're based over there in the UK, but we have fans all over the globe. I'm open, but coming from the USA, I don't know too much about Hooked on Wrestling. Can you tell me how long it's been around and what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started in 2013. Real simple, actually. I used to work for TNA Wrestling, okay, and they used to have their tour over here every January, and we had a bit of a tradition, my friends and I, whereby we'd finish the tour, we'd work our asses off during the week. When they went home on the Sunday morning, it was always the Royal Rumble that night. So we'd all get together in one of my buddies' house in London, have a big old party for the Royal Rumble. That was great for about 3 years. And then they split apart. The two housemates went off to different parts of the country. We were left with nowhere to have this Royal Rumble party. So I went, you know what, screw it. I'll just get a bar to show it. And, there's 8 or 10 of us. If we guarantee them X amount of money, they'd be closed anyway. So let's just see what happens. So we found a bar in West London. And I just put word out on Facebook. Just said, we're doing this, come along. 70 people turned up, which thought, okay, this works. So fast forward a few events, and by WrestleMania 32, which was 2016, we did 14 events for WrestleMania that year. The next year we did 22 events around the UK and then one in Calgary. And it's grown to a ridiculous degree. Like we work with WWE. We've had guest hosts to NXT UK Tannum, SoCal Val, who you guys have worked with in the past. It's been amazing. So I think it's fair to say that we are the world's leading pay-per-view events company. Like we have more people in our events watching WWE shows than anyone else on the planet, other than WWE themselves. But even we have more than those guys at the minute. Yes, it's great. And then we've, with the downtime that's come with the pandemic, we've just launched hookedonwrestling.co.uk as a features and news website. So that's going really well. Enjoying that, getting loads of traffic, and it's a different string to the bow. So yeah, we try and be fan friendly. Our motto is "It's wrestling, enjoy it." Right? I'm sure you're the same as me, Justin. I get so sick of negativity and bitchiness and gossip in and around wrestling, and we are just completely the antithesis of that. We don't want anything to do with the negative. You know, we don't want to hear who's the worst this, who's the worst that. We all love wrestling, whether you love the stuff in Japan, Mexico, WWE, the UK, out in Mongolia. It's all wrestling. It's all enjoyable, and for one person or another. So just get on with it.
I myself am a huge Outer Mongolia pro wrestling fan.
It's an untapped market.
It is. No, I love what you're saying. I recently, my colleague and I, Brittany Nicole, who I'll give her a little plug here. She is a female owner of her own promotion in New Orleans, awesome. Elevate Pro. And if you I always tell her this. I said this on Twitter once, and I had to text her and go, "Oh, it's 2020. I'm an old dude. I said this. Was it offensive?" But I said, check out my super smart, super cool, and super hot co-host. Like she's got it all put together. And we did a review show after Money in the Bank because recently, right. Obviously we are, I'll move my head, Wrestling Travel. We're a travel company, but man, we're screeching halt on that.
Travel going on right now, yeah.
Yeah, so we're trying to make that transition, which we should have done a long time ago, because we have connections and have talked to a lot of people. I'll do a little bit more media. Now, once the travel gets going, we're hopefully going to be a media and travel company neck and neck. But my original story is when we sat down and we were going to do our review for Money in the Bank, I'm glad to hear you say what you said, because we both said we're not going to trash wrestling because I love it. And the alternative between what they're doing now with no fans and the cinematography matches, the alternative is nothing. Like, I wanted to not like the Money in the Bank match. Like, the old school traditionalist in me didn't want to like it, but I go, man, I'm not going to take a dump on the product. I mean, I'll call a spade a spade if something silly, but we don't need the negativity.
No, of course not. And, at the same time, you don't want to, it's not blind faith. Like, I'm the same as you. I was not looking forward to this empty arena era at all. Like, I was really down, and especially because it coincided with WrestleMania, which was meant to be the big culmination for us. It was good with Drew McIntyre winning the title. We had our videos of it. Did you see those videos, by the way, of the fans in Scotland celebrating Drew's Royal Rumble win?
Oh, yeah.
Have they made the way? That's us. That's our event.
Oh, that's cool, man.
So, so Glasgow was going to be insane. We were going to have the BT Sport cameras there. We had a bagpipe band there. It was going to be the pinnacle of everything we've done. And that came to a screeching halt. So I was really, really down on the whole affair. But, like you say, the alternative is no wrestling. And, like, credit to them, they've done an absolutely fantastic job of pulling something out the bag. Now, the Money in the Bank match probably wasn't the best example of these things. But, some of the stuff they did at WrestleMania with the Boneyard match and the Funhouse match, and especially AEW Stadium Stampede, that was just so good. And like I'm a traditionalist. I don't want to like all this. If there's no wrestling ring involved, I don't want to know normally. But that was so much fun. Like, that was, what it's done is it's brought out the best in people, hasn't it? It's made people think differently and put up with something different. And I think ultimately it'll be of a benefit, because those skills that they learn in this period, that ways they can do things a bit differently, that will bleed over into wrestling going forward, and it'll make the product richer.
If anybody has kept track of my lockdown sessions, they're going to be so sick of me saying this, but you go back to WrestleMania, when Kevin Owens jumps off the Mania sign in the Seth Rollins match, I was blown away, because he's doing that without the adrenaline from the crowd.
Yes.
So now you got silence. Yes. You got to think about this and go with it. And it's like, am I going to mess this up and have to do another take? Now you're almost, because they're not in front of them. I thought my hat is way off to that guy for doing that. That's insane.
Incredible. And then, I know you've trained in the ring in the past. I've literally been in a wrestling ring in anger one time. But, I know how these guys work, and the rhythm of the crowd is so important, not just to them feeling their way around the match, but also, like you say, taking the ache and the sting out of those big bumps. To do what they're doing without that massive element that they've been used to for their whole career, it's just, man, it's just unreal. It's like, they've adapted so well. And, I think we just hats off to all of them, big time.
Yeah, and just as a fan, you realize how important that you are to the business, because if I turn on Monday Night Raw, I don't care what matches they're giving me. It's tough to watch right now without the fan excitement.
Right, it is. Yeah, the silence is a void, and I think one of the smartest things WWE have done is take that cue from AEW with just a few wrestlers around the ring to provide a bit of atmosphere, because the shows this past week where they've had that were exponentially better just by having a little bit of background noise. You know what I mean? It just makes all the difference.
Yeah, all the difference in the world. And I'm just, like I said, the alternative is not having wrestling. When I reviewed the Money in the Bank match, which I stupidly didn't realize, I thought that was going to be live that night for some reason.
Right, okay.
But obviously they filmed that, and I was like, man, I really, really, really going to try to be positive, but I'm going to hate this. But I just set my mindset away and realized that we're living in 2020, and
yep,
they're doing the best that they can. And I do think, I've said it before, when we look back at this era, hopefully we're really soon back into having crowds and everything being a sense of normalcy. But I think when we review this era of COVID, we're going to go back and go, there's a lot of cool things that happened, a lot of gems that I missed the first time, because I'll be honest, sometimes it's tough. I don't even know what's happening, what the matches are, but to think about how I'm going to turn wrestling on tonight, sometimes my brain's not even there right now in this COVID, just because I know there's no crowd or anything. So I know there's going to be a lot of hidden gems found.
Yeah, I agree. And like, here's another positive, just to not to labor on it, but my little boy's 6 years old, and I'm just starting to introduce him to wrestling and whatever. His favorite match up to this point was the 4 Doinks against Bam Bam Bigelow and his team at Survivor Series 1990, whatever it was. That shows you where his head's at. He has loved all these cinematic matches, every single one I've shown him, and now he can't get enough. So that's to a lot, if he's typical, how many kids are going to see this stuff for the first time and then become fans like we did back in the day? Like for me, I became a fan not because of a technical classic, but because I was at my friend's house and I happened to look at his brother watching SummerSlam 91, and these 2 jacked up dudes with face paint and red shoulder pads and spikes came marching out to the ring. And I was like, yeah, I need some of this.
So have you had Joe Laurinaitis on your show?
Have I had what? Sorry, John Laurinaitis?
Have you had Joe, Animal? Has he been on Hooked on Wrestling?
Oh, sorry, Joe. No. He's not been. We've not been lucky enough to have him. It's not coinciding. It's really hard to get the schedules together, especially for WrestleMania, because anybody who's anyone's in the WrestleMania city, Yeah. So it's difficult to get anybody around. So we've had a couple of, back in the early days before conventions became such a thing. We had Bob Holly, we had Tatanka working our shows, but more recently we stick with the UK talent. It just makes so much more sense, especially what we'll tend to do. And I try and do it as a matter of principle. I look at the NXT UK roster, and I look at guys that typically are maybe injured, can't work. A, because they're available, but B, because they need to fill in those bookings. So I'll typically go out to those guys first, and see if there's any gigs that work for them. And it's been great. We've worked with, like I say, Dave Mastiff. We've worked with Mark Andrews, Flash Morgan Webster, Eddie Dennis, and they've all been fantastic guys.
Mark Andrews, I did not know him from an average guy down the road, and I saw him in 2015 live at the King of Trios, Chikara. And watching him and Mustache Mountain and all these guys was so impressive. The crowd chanting, "Please come back, please come back," and then
Yeah.
seeing him in TNA and everything, very impressive.
Well, that was the biggest surprise me. Oh, sorry, Justin, go on.
No, go ahead. I always interrupt. It's all about you.
No. I was just going to say, when I was at TNA working for I didn't work for them directly. I worked for an agency that represented their TV rights. And one of the things we did while we were there is British boot camp. I don't know if that was a thing that you guys were familiar with over there. But we had the second series was quite a large roster. And I assumed that it was a vehicle for Grado. That was when Grado was really at his peak of popularity over here. He was doing a whole Madonna entrance that was going viral. So it was me thinking, yeah, this is the rest of them are just window dressing for Grado. I'd never even heard of Mark Andrews, but by the time we got into the filming, there was the consensus was very quickly that there was no other possible winner. He just blew us away, and then he's gone from strength to strength. That's the bit I love about the UK guys. You probably not being an American, Justin, you have the same experience, but for years and years. You look at the UK wrestling scene, and you could be the very best in the UK, and there is no pathway. You'll have maybe one or two at any given time, and they have to be guys that look like, they have to look like stereotypical 6'4" wrestlers. We're talking Wade Barrett, Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, obviously. Now that's changed so much, and these guys can make a career and can make worldwide impressions, and it's changed the business over here completely. And it's brilliant now. You can go to your local hall and see someone, El Ligero, for instance, and now you know that if he's good enough, he'll go all the way, and that is so cool to see. Awesome.
I'm going to go back to your TNA working days. Now, do you do anything still with Impact when they come over to the UK, or is that years ago?
No, that's years ago. So I started work for an agency in 2008, and we were the guys that did all TNA's international television deals and UFCs at the same time. So we got them the British TV deal, the big one in India, everything outside the States, effectively, between sort of 2008 and when did I start working for them? 2016, I think. 2015, 16, okay. Along those lines. It's amazing. I got to travel the world. I got to meet my heroes, going to India for a week with Kurt Angle, going out drinking on a 40-hour red wine session with Ric Flair. Did some work at the same time now and again as well. But the little boy in me, just the best thing ever.
That's awesome, I'm glad to hear another good Ric Flair story, because I got to tell you, I was afraid to meet Rick. I met Ric Flair in 2015, 2016,
yeah.
Somewhere around there. And it was kind of one of those, do I want to meet a hero? Because I've heard horror stories. He couldn't have been nicer to me. Couldn't have been a better dude. And I imagine a lot of those horror stories that you hear about Ric Flair and other people, there's extenuating circumstances where, just like, I don't care if you're a celebrity or not, but if you were out with your boy at dinner and I came up and bothered you, you probably wouldn't be in the greatest of moods.
Exactly.
Like private time and stuff. But yeah, it's good to hear a good Rick story, because
let me tell you my favorite Rick story about how much of an impact that guy's got around the world. So we're in this hotel, and you can imagine the sort of hotels Ric Flair stays at. These are not cheap hotels. They're putting up in a great 5-star central London hotel. There's about 8 of us. In fact, it was more or less exactly 10 years to the day. And we're in this hotel bar. Second night we've been in there. It goes to about 2 o'clock in the morning, and a waitress came over and said, we're wrapping up, we're closing the bar, it's time for us all to leave. And Rick's just like, he wasn't rude, but he was quite firm in saying, I'm staying here. When I stay at hotels, I'll close down the bar when I'm good and ready to go to bed. So she goes, if you don't leave, I'm going to have to go and get the manager. He says, that's cool, go get the manager, it's fine. 2 minutes later, the manager comes over, takes one look at us, walks off, comes back a few minutes later with 3 bottles of red wine. He goes, Rick, he goes, I've been the bar manager here for 10 years. I've had film stars, rock stars, politicians, you name it. I've never been more honored to have anybody in my bar. You stay as long as you like. And it was amazing. It was so fun, and he took full advantage of that. We didn't just have those 3 bottles; there were many more.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
He is a good dude.
What you guys do quizzes and games and stuff. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we do. So, one of the big things about our nights when we do these pay-per-view events, we don't just put the pay-per-view on in a bar. We do a whole load of stuff wrapped around it. The most popular thing we do is these pub quizzes, wrestling theme, 40 questions, dead simple stuff, but people love it. People come in early just for these quizzes. So when lockdown kicked in and we're all stuck inside, we thought, right, let's transplant this online. Let's keep it amused. So we started doing a weekly wrestling quiz for anybody who wants to join. So we do it live on Facebook. It was every Friday night, but starting this week, we're moving it Sunday nights at 8 o'clock on our Facebook page. All you have to do is rock up. We've got a nice little system, dead simple, 20 questions every single week. And we just get, we get a couple of people joining in. It's just what we're doing to give back, like we've got a great community of people that engage with us at our events and beyond. They're all stuck inside just like we are. Some of us are going through hard times, financially, emotionally, mentally, whatever. And, whatever we can do, just to do a little bit to keep people connected, then, it's worth it.
That's fantastic. That's how this lockdown session started. I'll tell you, Paul, we teamed up with Mania Crawl. We were supposed to sponsor them in Tampa while everything went up in smoke. And the Wednesday night before WrestleMania, Jamie reaches out and says, I want to do a virtual Mania Crawl on Twitch. Nice. I'm old. I don't know what the heck Twitch is. I don't know how we're going to do a virtual crawl. But all I know is, brother, I'm in. How can I help? And I just reached out to every wrestler I could in the Rolodex. Then most of them are independent guys, as you know. And I did reach out to some names. I got PCO. Enzo Amore was more than happy to donate his time.
Nice.
But in a small amount of time, I got a lot of people, and I thought, hey, we raised $3,300 plus for the Red Cross. Now,
wow,
$3,300. I always say, you look at it and you go, that might not seem like a lot, but when the wrestling fans and the wrestling community is not sure when their next dollar is coming in, that's a lot of money.
It's amazing.
And I always say about
amazing.
This, and I know it's the same over there. People in normal society, I will say, will tend to look down their nose a little bit at pro wrestling and pro wrestling fans. But more often than not, every group I know is going to have its assholes. But more often than not, that pro wrestling community, the fans and all, are always there, stepping up in a big way, and they don't get enough credit for it. So I started doing.
Shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. I started doing these like, okay, these guys helped me out. We raised $3,300. I'm going to use Wrestling Travel, our reach. We got the blue tick. But we had a YouTube channel sitting on 286 subscribers. And I'm like, man, it's not much, but if I can get everybody on here, just like selling a ticket, subscribe to the YouTube, maybe I can help some of these indie guys. Maybe they can sell a shirt. But I know what I can do is I can help them, give them an avenue to sell their brand. And when things get back to normal, some of the people I've interviewed, maybe, hey, we can buy a ticket and go see them. So that's how it started. And we are and we need to grow more, but we're at 564 subscribers on YouTube, which again,
that's pretty good.
Doesn't sound like a lot, but when I can just go watch them on YouTube without having to subscribe, 564 is not bad.
You've got to start somewhere. We're in the same boat. We've got, I think our YouTube subscriber count's about 17 at the moment. So we're going to focus on it. But same thing.
Subscribe. Yeah.
Hey, there you go. But same with our events. Like I said, we started with 70. Our biggest event, we had 4,500 across all the different venues. So acorns, my friend, acorns. Mighty oaks grow.
We're kind of in the same boat. I got called a journalist 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
And I'm going to stick with it. So you are, you are technically being interviewed by a journalist. So,
hey man, stick it on the resume.
That's right.
Another string to the bow.
He goes, "You're a journalist, so I feel fine telling you this." And I'm like, Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm like, it reminded me, and I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm a big Three Stooges fan. And when they used to
Right.
try
Okay.
to, they used to try to sneak into the horse races, and they had no money, and they saw the journalists going through with their press badges, so they would
Yeah.
go in the bathroom and pull the knobs off the stuff and press, and then Curly or Shemp would always have pull. You know, it was just great. So that's what it
Well,
reminded me
mate,
of.
I am very familiar with the press privilege. My wife's a journalist by trade. I trained as a journalist at college. And I've locked my friends in the press. I've had some real good privileges from sitting behind a press pass, that's for sure. It's
Yeah.
not to be underestimated.
So I'm gonna have to get one. I'm gonna have to talk to you off camera on how to get my official journalist badge.
And then,
Podcast. Is podcast new for you, or have you guys always done podcasts?
well, it's back. It's back. You know, we did a podcast when life was less busy a couple of years ago, and it was just you know how many guys are out there sticking a microphone in front of the PC and talking about what happened this week on Raw. Some are good, some are bad, some are real bad, but we did that, you know, and ours was no better or worse than anybody else's, but it just got a bit boring and a bit samey. So we brought it back actually now. So we've actually got 5 different podcasts on the go. Yeah, so me and my colleague Rob do one which is called How to Be Great, which is a weekly podcast where we pick a subject. Like we recorded one today, and the idea was we were working out who Mr. In Your House is, who's the best performer in Your House history. So we come up with a top 5, and we get our listeners to vote on who's the best. And then we've got Because WCW, which is a WCW themed show. We have a British wrestling show called Seconds Away, which interviews some of the characters from the yesteryears of British wrestling, and there's some bloody interesting stories that you might not want your mother to hear on that. That's for sure. We've got a few. So that's the Hooked on Wrestling Podcast Network. Like you were saying earlier, that is very, very much in its infancy. But you never know where it's going to go, eh?
That's true. I have been at many different events where a podcaster will just stick their microphone in somebody's face, and it's just not cool. And I know the talent doesn't appreciate it. And I also know that we've toyed around. We'd like to do a podcast. We've talked about it, but we are smart enough to know that we cannot just start a podcast. We have to have something that sets us apart. And then that's what this show, the feedback that I've gotten is, and it probably counteracts with my journalist title that I received, is that people enjoy watching this. The few that do, because I'm not going, hey, in 1997 you had a match with Rey Mysterio. Can you tell me about that? I'm just going, hey, what have you been up to? What's happening? Tell me a story. TJ Perkins. I got to talk to TJ. TJ ends up showing me. I'm like, well, who are some of the guys you looked up to? And he shows me his tattoo with Shawn Michaels and everything on it. Then we got to talking about old school. He talked about gaming a lot, because I said I don't know much about it because I can't wrap my paws around an Xbox controller, but I can do a Nintendo, and he's got a Nintendo controller on this arm. So it was just fun, and a lot of stuff just kind of comes out. But again, my entire goal of whether I interview Hulk Hogan, Greg Gagne, who's number 1 on my list, which you guys might not know who Greg is, but
of course we do.
I take so much heat, Paul, about my AWA fandom from everybody that I'm just like, man.
Really?
Oh yeah, nobody appreciates the AWA. So I'm hoping that when you guys do quizzes, if you have an AWA night, I'm gonna log in under a pseudonym.
Do you know what, Justin? I will make sure me and Rob, my co-host, we pick 10 questions each every week. If you tune in this Sunday, I'll make sure there's a couple of AWA questions in there for you. Okay?
Dude, I'm in. That'll be on before In Your House, right? So it'll be perfect.
Yeah. So it's so where are you? You're Eastern time, aren't you? So
I'm in Central time. So I'm about 6 hours behind you. Yeah.
So it'll be 2 p.m. for you.
I can do that. It's a Sunday. It's 2 p.m. I can do that. So tell me.
I will send you an invite.
I appreciate it. Now I feel like the negative part of my show is I go off on a tangent and talk about the Denver Broncos and stuff. But tell me, I want to talk more about Hooked on Wrestling because I'm loving it, what I've read and what I've talked to you about. So I want to get more involved. What other, besides like the pay-per-views, in a normal world, what other kinds of, were you doing stuff in between? Like, let's say WrestleMania?
Not so much, to be honest. It's happening, it's coming, but we always were the ethos where, you've been in a bar, where there's 10 people, a large bar, 10 people, and you can be having the best time ever, but you're still in a giant room with 10 people, Or you can be having a fairly mundane night and there's 500 people in that room, and it just elevates everything. So we would rather do less, have more people there, have a bigger atmosphere so people remember it. And we've had people who say it's the best. Wrestling fans, I don't know what it's like over there, man, but over here, us wrestling fans are in a bubble. We're not generally people who go out, we're not, most of us aren't sports fans in general. I am more than most maybe, but some of these guys who come to our events, it's the only social occasions they have by choice, but it's the only social occasion, and they can come to our events and they know that they won't be judged. They can dress as bloody gold dust. They can wear an AWA t-shirt. They can wear a Nick Botwinkle t-shirt. They can do whatever they want, right? And there will be no judgment because everybody's in the same boat. And so we'd rather do that. What we do want to start doing is maybe spin off these quizzes a little bit. That's something we're maybe looking at doing when things come back to normal in a few months, 2021. Have a few more classic pay-per-view nights. We're blessed to work with WWE, so we're talking to them about maybe doing some classic events. And with all these things, you'll try a few things that work. You'll try a few things that spectacularly fail. But if you don't know if you don't try, right? That's our ethos. So we'll just see where it goes and see what the demand is. We've done parties for Wrestle Kingdom, and that is bizarre. Like sitting there on a Thursday morning at 7 a.m. in a bar surrounded by 200 wrestling fans, drinking beer and eating bacon sandwiches it's not the most normal way to start your day. Let's put it that way. But we do like that. AEW is another avenue. Everyone, AEW is such a big deal over here at the minute, and everyone loves it. So when they get back up to speed and back to normal, and we can go back into bars again, we'll get back to doing AEW parties on a smaller scale to the WWE stuff, admittedly. But they're such a passionate and committed fan base that they want to see they want to see it, together. Like we watch wrestling. You've been a wrestling fan since you were a kid, I assume, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
You watch it at home. Greg Gagne, there you go. Yeah. You watch it at home. You watch it with maybe one or two friends, which is great, but it's not as good as watching it with 150, 200, 600 people from one of our parties. We had 600 in one night, and yeah, Glasgow was going to be 1,000 people for WrestleMania this year. Can you imagine that? 1,000 people in a bar. It's a different scale, my friend. So that's us really. We want people to come out and just it's a community thing. That's how it started for us, and that's how we want it to continue. Anyone can come to our events solo and just enjoy themselves. Just positivity all the way.
That's what we're kind of the same with wrestling travel. If you're that solo traveler, hey man, we're doing everything we can to make sure you're having the best time. Here's another wrestling fan. And the thing that we don't advertise, I can let out of the bag now. I let it out of the bag before. But one of my main duties, when the wrestling fans were going to come over for Tampa Bay, they were going to be met in a hotel room, not the room, but like an office, big meeting space by Vicky Guerrero. Yeah. Vicky was going to, when we hand out the tickets, Vicky was going to be doing her podcast.
I'd heard that, yeah.
Yeah, and then Hacksaw Jim Duggan was going to watch SmackDown in our suite with us. Pillman Jr.
Incredible.
Was gonna go to Raw and WrestleMania with us, and then we had the Nasty Boys that were gonna come to our pre-party, and we were gonna have them at WrestleCon. We just had all kinds of stuff that's not advertised because I don't want to advertise it. I want it to be, and what this has done, and I'm not trying to be shamelessly plugging. But it's given me a whole nother year to plan out all the surprises that I can do at WrestleMania 37. So
And I think it's great because, you know, I've known Lee and Cal and Ross for a while now, for a good few years. And you know, when they started out doing these wrestling, it was such a logical idea to do these package holidays. But at the start, it was just a package holiday, wasn't it? It was just get the guys over, but it took the sting out of it. Yeah, it cost a little bit more than if you did it off your own back, but that's something the same if you go on holiday to Spain or whatever. You pay for the convenience and the security and the confidence if you're not a confident traveler. So that's fine. But now you guys are adding all these other strings to the bow. Word is starting to get out about that now, and it goes beyond that. You know, just a package holiday type deal, and it becomes an experience. And I think once you're offering wrestling fans that personalized experience, then sky's the limit. You know, like it just it's so much fun. Like I just wish I'd had the idea. If I'm honest, I've told Lee this before. I wish I'd had the idea because I definitely would definitely would have given it a go. It's superb.
I see some other people are giving it a shot, and that's awesome. I mean, competition breeds better. It makes us all better. And while we don't get everything right all the time, we're constantly wanting to get it right and working to that, just like any other good business. Like I know there's, you know, people can complain about a lot of things, and it's going, yeah, man, hey, absolutely. I sold something on Marketplace the other day,
right,
on Facebook, and the person goes, "This doesn't work. Thanks for ripping me off." I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Time out. I said to you, if it doesn't work, let me know. And it turns out the product worked. It was an older Nintendo. They had it on the wrong channel. But hey,
there
I'm
you go. There
you
you
know
go.
what? I understand that. And they said, sorry, I flew off the handle. I'm like, dude, I understand. But I was never mind. If I'm gonna rip you off, if we're gonna rip people off, no matter what business you're in, you're gonna be in business for a very short amount of time. Do you get over to WrestleMania? Probably not, because you're hosting your stuff in the UK.
Do you know what? Do you know what? I went once. So when I was, I had tickets to WrestleMania 20, right? But I was at university at the time, couldn't afford the travel. God, if any wrestling travel existed back then, I'd have been okay. But couldn't afford the travel, so I had to sell my tickets. But then I started in a role where in the TV industry I was in, there was a big international conference every year that was attendance was mandatory. You know, it was the most important weekend of the year for that industry, and it was always the same weekend as WrestleMania. Don't know why. Don't know what the thinking was. Obviously, that it was a coincidence rather than anything else, but it was always the same year as WrestleMania, so that was off the table. Then I started out in another industry, and the first year I went to WrestleMania, and it was WrestleMania 32, which was awful. Just bad WrestleMania. Great experience, but you know, and amazing to be there, to be able to finally say I was at WrestleMania was just like, it blew my mind. Really enjoyed it massively. But what I did feel, you know, the guys were running the parties for me back home, and I was in text contact, and it was the stress levels were through the roof.
Yeah.
So I just went, do you know what? As long as I'm doing this for the future, I can't go. I can't do it. I have to be in the trenches, as it were. But the minute I stop doing these, the first year I stop doing these, I will be over there. So sell me a ticket, yeah.
100%. You got to come. I'm hoping that just the fact that we've got this super cool relationship that, you know, maybe, you know, we do stuff together at WrestleMania. But yeah, you got to go. I did the same thing. WrestleMania 28, The Rock versus Cena in Miami. Decided to go that Friday and fly down from Pennsylvania with my boss.
Wow.
And we had a layover in Charlotte, and that's where we bought our tickets on StubHub. Then we got to Miami Beach. Incredible. And stayed at the same hotel. It was like Easter weekend. I shouldn't even be telling this story live, but I got to tell you. I'm looking around, and on all these tables in this bar, you know, we finally make it. We're at a bar in Miami Beach. It's cold up north. We got a free cocktail for checking in. Cheers. And I look around, and all these little individual tables have like little bunnies and candies and stuff. And I'm like, some kind of Easter party going down here in South Beach? And I look, and there's two gorgeous women sitting over here. I'm going to hell for telling this story live. And I look, and I'm like, hey, where are you ladies from? When I'm out of town, Paul, I don't care who I'm talking to. I'm just like a social butterfly. Oh, we're from Cleveland, this and that. I go, oh, are you, and I'm cocky, are you ladies down here for WrestleMania? She looks at me and she goes, no, we're down here for our annual Playboy Bunny reunion. Now, mister, I could talk to everybody. I'm just looking at her, and I turn to my buddy, and I'm like, I got nothing. You got to help me out. I got nothing. He doesn't have anything. So finally, I just said, I was just hoping to get some marshmallow peeps. And I'm like, so that whole weekend was crazy. So we went to Mania. The next year, Cena and Rock 2 is 45 minutes away from my doorstep. And I've got to
Right.
work. I can't go to it. I got work scheduled. And I'm like, so anyway, Playboy Bunnies and WrestleMania.
Well, it's a good combination, my friend.
Yeah, so maybe we can get that connection going somehow. I mean,
dude, it's another string to the wrestling travel bow. You know, Friday night Playboy Bunny party. Who knows?
If wrestling fans, if we have trouble socializing, I mean, I don't see why we couldn't coincide with the Playboy Bunny reunions of the world. So
why the hell not? Why the hell not?
I do, because I feel like I could talk to you for hours on end, and I do look forward to the day when we are in the same place at the same time, having a pint together. But please run through your socials for Hooked on Wrestling. Obviously, plug I'm hoping we can get this out this weekend on Saturday, but plug your events going up, and then tell everybody why we need to be, if we're not aware of Hooked on Wrestling, why we need to be.
All right. So Hooked on Wrestling, you know, first and foremost, I want you to come to hookedonwrestling.co.uk. That's our hub. It's where I want you to be every day, get your wrestling news. And we've got some really cool content on there as well, from podcasts to features, news, reviews, all done in a little bit of a different way. So please check that out. Every Sunday, we've got the wrestling quiz, 8 p.m. UK time. So that's 3 p.m. Eastern for anyone listening to this in the US. Come along, come to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Hooked on Wrestling. Just be there. That's all you need to do. Maybe have a device separate to input the answers on, but that's it. No other programs to download. It's easy. Great fun. Join us for that. We've also got Twitter, HO_wrestling, which we're pretty active on and trying to be more active. And then Instagram, which we are frankly rubbish at. But that's instagram.com/Hooked on Wrestling as well. But Facebook's where it's at. We really spend a lot of time putting stuff out on Facebook. Silly memes, links, stories, interactions, what have you. You join, you follow us on there or like us on there, and you're going to get a real good feel for what we're about. We're a community. We want wrestling fans to come together, to enjoy it, not to be bitching about, you know, who's done this and who's done that. You know, now more than ever, you know, with all that's going on in the world, it's most important to just be kind, you know, to steal a phrase, and that's what we want. You know, we want good fun because we love this. We love it, and we want everyone else to feel the same. So hookedonwrestling.co.uk. That's it.
That's what I'm looking forward to. And the being kind thing, it seems like a lesson that we all should have learned decades ago. But that's why we Fight to Fight wrestling fans are an amazing breed. I'm looking forward to the quiz. Now, when I win that quiz, the AWA quiz, do I get prizes and cash, or do I just get the pride of knowing?
Well, you get pride, first of all, but what you might get as well is we're in the process of putting on a Hooked on Wrestling Civil War quiz between me and my co-host Rob. We're all going to be choosing teams, you know. So if you prove yourself, Justin, right, this week at the quiz, maybe I'll be scouting you to be on our quiz team.
Oh,
how does that sound?
That sounds fantastic. Except what I'm gonna fail on the British wrestling stuff. I like to know a lot of things. You know where I really fail is the Japanese wrestling, and I shouldn't.
Oh,
because I enjoy it and I watch it, and somebody will say somebody's name, and I'll be like, that sounds really familiar, but I cannot put anything with that. Yeah, I'm
with you there, buddy. Yeah.
Speaking of Japanese wrestling and in your house, on your top in your house wrestlers, is Hakushi named being in the first match?
it's pretty tough competition, man. He's not named, but he does get talked about on the podcast we've recorded, because that was, you know, who we did talk about was Bret Hart. And Bret Hart, we talked about him in the early days of In Your House, and how he had some stellar matches with guys that you wouldn't necessarily expect anywhere near. I put that very picture up on our Facebook page today, just in that very DVD cover, you know. And that match with Hakushi, that match with Jean-Pierre Lafitte, two tremendous matches, nowhere near the main event. And he, for me, you know, he is Mr. I think he is Mr. In Your House personally. But there's some stiff competition. I won't ruin the rest. You'll have to listen to the podcast that comes out Thursday to find out. But do come along, yeah. Thursday, if you want to come to the quiz, I'll make sure that there's some AWA questions for you.
Yeah, some softball questions. Now, I know I just said I'd let you go, but have you had PCO on your show? Have you guys?
We have not.
You got to. I just had him on. I doubt you had a chance to watch it yet, but the guy is phenomenal, super nice guy. And when I talked to him on this last lockdown session, which aired on Monday, I talked about Lee. Lee sends me a video from New York. I'm in Toronto, and he sends me a video of PCO doing this moonsault outside, you know, from the top of the ring to the outside, and going, look at this crazy son of a bitch. So I talked to him with PCO about it. It's fun. He's a great guy. When we stop recording, I'm going to get you some details to talking to him, because if you're talking Jean-Pierre Lafitte, he's the man.
He's a character, man. He's a character. Yeah, mate. And you know, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, like you say, it's a shame we've not got much time, but I'd love to. If you're ever stuck for a guest again and you want to just talk nonsense about any type of wrestling, just give me a shout.
You careful what you tell me there, Paul. You'll be stuck with me every week. Weekly feature. All right. Hooked on Wrestling. Thank you very much, Paul.
Cheers, buddy.